So last announcement, please for your group where you have been working on, for the action item that you have been working on right now in your third round, please identify one reporter who shares with us the indicators. Because we need to do a report out, and we have time, but it will be a fast-paced process, so I just want to make sure every group has one. Okay, so for the report out, we have 7 actions, because we clustered, over there we clustered 3 together. So if we can maybe start just here to my right with the RISE fellows, and then we go around the room and have a group reporting out. You have about 2 minutes for the report out, so that we can really, within the remaining time, make sure we hear from every group about the indicators. And can I have assistance with my facilitators for the timing, because I'm taking notes. Thank you. Okay, so group RISE fellowships. What are the indicators to help us measure success? Please rise and tell us about it.
Okay, so for Action 9 with the fellows, we looked at pretty much between pre-event as well as post-event engagement with the fellows. So looking at large, training a certain number of fellows each year attached to core capabilities. So part of it, okay, that's really close to my mouth actually. Okay, so part of that piece was looking at core capabilities that do exist within disaster management as well as health management, so we can better align to what the practitioners are looking for. One of them is the number of trained, the number of community interactions. So again, trying to make the connections with these communities before the disaster occurs, and having these fellows be the leads in regional areas. So again, going back to the organized geographically by areas, and also the number of their productivity. So some folks added in number of trained fellows to teach new RISE fellows for each college department. They added 2020 having 1, 2025 1 a year, 2035 a year. RISE fellow for each county or city. So again, I think I would actually raise that up for a different geographic area. Most use counties, but it might not be the best fit. You might have to go up to a regional piece. So that'll help you coordinate. And one of the add-ons was coordinating with a student chapter to make sure that these are working together in tandem. Some add-ons I see are train the trainer program or training, kind of working through teaching the teachers. Create plans and procedures for mobilization. So when a disaster comes, are there procedures followed? I would actually back that up with a checklist. It's really easy in a disaster, just go check, check, I'm ready to go. So that can help. And somebody also added an accessible database of trained fellows that we can contact again for future collaborations as well as disaster response. And just a couple of the subs, because I don't want to leave those out. Process to refine plans. So that's always a good part of the emergency process, is to make sure after an event that you review and then update any plans, procedures, or checklists. And then are they effective in increasing resiliency and decreasing loss of life and property? So definitely some good pieces from the fellow. Thank you.
Wow, 1 minute, 55 seconds. Very impressive.
Okay, next one up is a local leadership capacity building program.
2 minutes, sir?
Yes, hello. Hi to everybody. In this action, we use, in certain way, system thinking. We put a lot of indicators, like do public and environmental health assessment in the community in the first year. So a number of public health, environmental health assessment, because that is the first step to make a needs assessment of each community. Another indicator is the number of communities attended training in a year. We don't put a specific number because we have to view first the total system, and then we can define the subsystem, and then in each subsystem we are going to define the details, no? Because, indicator number 3, number of residents trained in a community. The topics that are going to be covering of interest in these trainings are leadership development, infrastructure, standardized workshops and workbooks are going to be produced, prevention of public health issues, disaster preparedness and management, and an indicator that was added, a number of local leaders who say they have accessed new resources or support through RISE. That's for the recommendation. There are others here. Connect local leader of government agency, let agency decision makers build a legitimate political power of local leaders. Those were some of the recommendations, and there's here a table that they put in some numbers of the recommendation that we already made.
I didn't want you to. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Also, great on time. Who's up with, Katja, who's up for K through 16? Excellent. Keep them up real close. Okay. And folks over there, is the door open a problem for hearing? Do you want to pull the door closed? Yeah, that means great. Thank you so much.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Right up close to your mouth.
action 7 was K through 16. We had a number of curricula developed and used. Number 2 was number of teachers, informal educators, schools, institutions reached. We had a number of undergrads / universities reached. And a sub-bullet would be where do undergrads go? So keeping track of where they go as a result of this work. And then also number of jobs created, sustained employment for students. We had number of jobs created in general to implement this program. Number 5 was not a number per se, but whether there was an awareness of preparedness, mitigation, and recovery strategies, the number of workshops as a sub-bullet, number of workshops, an evaluation or documentation of behavior change and knowledge gained. And we could do that through testimonials or surveys of those who attended those workshops. Some sub-bullets was Rise U. It's a platform across K through HE. I don't know what that means.
Higher ed.
Oh, higher ed. Okay, so training. And then some of the other comments was the included criteria or the degree of achievement. Quality outcome content must include community wisdom. Yep. Impact outcomes, transformation of kids in their capacity and adaptability to disasters versus those who don't implement it. Some other outcomes would be research proposals out of this work, teacher trainings, and a hazard playbook or workbook or, yeah.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, who's up over here? Ethics.
Ethics. 3 timeframes. The immediate would be to develop or identify an existing web page where we can share metrics of success for this action, and this should include a definition that RISE gives of the values that we should use. And we could also upload or organize resources and standards that are existing, like the GSA Code of Ethics. There is a big resource in the global code of conduct.org, and there are many others that are available that the tribes are using. So upload all those resources within the first year. By the second year, we will share this resource with all the RISE membership, and then we will stimulate the researchers to develop their own guidelines, and the measure will be the number of researchers that do so. And then in the first year, within this, we will include implicit bias training and additional training for the development of guidelines. Researchers should also facilitate conversation with communities to empower them to develop their own guidelines as with inspiration of the resources that we can upload. And another measure of success by the second year is the number of community leaders that have been able to also upload that. in order to know what communities have or don't have guidelines, then we can include in the webpage a map of stakeholders that have developed their guidelines, and can also be used as additional resource for examples. Another measure that would be available by after the second year would be to include in the webpage a pre-assessment of conditions before, an assessment of conditions before the use of guidelines regarding conflict or tensions that are mediated through the guidelines. And then by the second or fifth year, between the second and fifth year, a post-assessment of the conditions after the use of guidelines so we can measure the success of the application of this in the context of community work and research, implementation, and community engagement.
Thank you. Who's up for legal background for RISE? Keep the mic close.
Okay, I won't drop it.
No, I mean
Until I'm done, I'll drop it then. Anyways, nice to see you all again, Sean Griffin. So we talked about the context of law and disasters. The first thing that we're going to do within the first year, 12 months, is develop a list of all principal authorities, laws, regulations as it relates to disasters. We'll start canvassing first at the federal level. As this is a federal system, we'll go down to 54 states and territories. We'll also include tribes and local governments within that context and framework to understand where all those laws reside, how are the interdependencies between federal law and state law and local laws and so forth within each of those jurisdictions. And do it at a very high level. Obviously, this could be in very resource-intensive work, but just to get an initial inventory within the first 12 to 18 months. So the first 12 months we do the canvassing, then 12 to 18 months we do the inventory, basically a database where it can be hosted on the RISE website or somewhere. And it's completely open source, where folks can go and access this, and it becomes a tool for anybody who's engaged in before, during, and after disasters to be able to leverage this so they can understand the legal context. Then within the 18 to 24 months is build either one or two case studies, essentially scenario backdrop, to play out how these laws would engage with this particular event, whether it's in a mitigation context or in a preparedness context or in a response to recovery. And then finally, what I think we should do is build training and exercise resources to be able to train folks in the database, get them smart on what the laws and authorities are relative to their domain, whether they live in a specific state or locality, and then run training exercises to test and validate their knowledge as individuals, but also how relevant is the database, and also provide what I think would be useful as policy recommendations to either amend or adjust existing legal infrastructure for future events.
270. Thank you. I'm going to drop the mic. Okay, who is up for governance structures? Olivia, is that? Olivia. All right, clock is started.
Okay, so we actually saw Action 3 operational systems and governance structure operating sort of hand in hand. We approached this looking at metrics in the first phase of development of the organization, primarily 12 to 18 months out. One of the metrics, because our goal is to make this a stakeholder inclusive organization, so one of the metrics is the extent to which we have identified and developed a database of identifying stakeholders across sectors, be it academia, be it the private sector, be it the nonprofit sector, and those stakeholders which would be engaged based on the phases of a disaster. Pre-disaster, during the disaster, and post-disaster. And the metrics would be the extent to which we've identified existing stakeholders, we've included them, and the extent to which, based on these existing and sort of surveying those existing, the extent that we would develop new stakeholders that perhaps weren't readily identified before. So we're looking at both the quantity and quality of stakeholders that we've identified and the pathways that we've allowed them to be able to be integrated into the organization. One of those ways in which to identify, sort of validate, is to do focus groups, and to the extent to those focus groups allow us to know whether or not we've met this goal of being inclusive and identifying, existing and new stakeholders into the process.
So is it safe to assume, because you're reporting on 2 groups, you get 3 minutes? Oh, 4?
4, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. That
4
was
minutes would be fine, and
Go right ahead.
I encourage my colleagues to jump in where I've missed anything. Relative to the governance structure, this one is fairly straightforward. In this initial phase, RISE needs to establish an advisory board in order to begin to assess what type of structure will work best for this organization. The metric will be the convening of a representative advisory board, not only comprised of mostly academics that have been at this meeting, but other stakeholders to include federal partners, state partners, community-based organizations, those in the field who need to be a part of this advisory board to give input into what the structure of this organization looks like, including its various tentacles and arms. And from that, this advisory board will be tasked with presenting to the group and voting on a structure in which to implement all of these wonderful activities. And that's going to take some time, whether or not they go out, and this might also involve going out and doing, viewing websites, looking at existing organizations that sort of have a similar sort of focus and structure, or going out and talking to some people. But at the end of the day, the metric will be the extent to which they have developed a draft organizational structure for the membership to vote on. Anything I missed here? Yes.
Could I just step up, because I wrote something on the other page.
Oh, okay.
Is Victoria still here? So she and I worked on this together, but really quickly, we think there should be the steering committee or the board should establish guidelines of private or corporate funding and participation. And 2 things could be establish a socially responsible investing portfolio for any RISE institution, and also require a so-called background check on human rights records and environmental records of potential sponsors for the institutions. We then have some other broader things about, could we turn this around and say, can RISE feedback and help corporations work with us better? That's not exactly an outcome, but that could be another thing we can think about. And Victoria also mentioned the role of small businesses, which is maybe a bit of a separate kind of category. So those are those things.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Have we
Olivia?
had any
And thank-
conversation about the geographic domain of RISE? I mean, we're starting out based on an event that happened on an island in the Caribbean. So what do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to be equally relevant on the West Coast and the Great Lakes?
I think that is the expectation.
Yeah, but you got to walk before you can run.
Oh,
So, I think one of the first things this advisory board has to do is lay out that roadmap of growth, not only geography, but disaster type.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask us to hold the conversation. Great points, great ideas, but let's get the other ones.
Well, okay, yeah, fine.
And then we-
It informs a lot of these other things.
No question, but we want to get the other groups a chance
Yeah,
to
sure,
make a
sure.
report, and then,
Sure.
yeah, is that, yeah, okay. So our new timekeeper is Maria, because I have to go get ready for the lunch, right?
Who do we have for data directory?
Pablo and Marcel.
Okay, thank you. Paul and I came in and worked quickly on this, because it was here yesterday. the data directory, so the idea is to not replicate some efforts and make good use of existing repositories, and that, so there are different areas of data, creating a website, a directory for that, and collect contributions from different parts. And one aspect that we talk about in the last few minutes of the work is to also establish a case study for Maria, which is in a way what brought us here, that then could be replicated for other events. So have a case study and have put together maybe a repository with all the data of Maria, like all the story and the different kinds of data, like power reconnection, the death, the health situation, and put it in timeline, but also locate it geographically as possible, and then work on a visualization tool so that way it becomes like a research tool, but also work to engage with communities. So when you can visualize things and locate it, then you can engage communities in different ways to communicate vulnerabilities and how to overcome. And so spatial temporal data that could be used for modeling and then decision making, and then training and building capacity in the local communities. And the visualization tools should then help us to have more research around this. So that's the tool.
Great, thank you. And last but certainly not least, association in each university.
Okay, so do you hear me?
Yes.
So for East Rise Association or chapter at the university, we have some ideas, and we make a table for short and long terms by the year 2020, 2025, and 2030. First, we have the idea that the percent of Taylor's declarations signed by universities, college, by 2020, 1%, 2025, 30%, and 2030, 100%. The number of local committees involved with universities and rights chapters by 2021, by 2025, one for each year, and for 2030, 3 by each year. Also, the number of disciplinary college committee involved in the local research project by 2023, 2025, 50% of disciplines, and by 2030, all of them. And the number of students getting credit from Rice chapter by 2021, 2025, 50%, and 2030, 100%. And some other ideas were the number of Rice Students Association chapters formed or established. In 2020, the SUNY chapters. In 2025, the regional, and 2030, national. Also the number of students in chapters or fellows, the number of universities or colleges with chapters, the creation of a larger regional chapters that go beyond the university environment, integrate with the K-12, 16 actions, training when enact serving leadership volunteer, integrate Rice Fellows, and bring societies together, students conference, and exchange programs to learn what university programs are doing.
Okay, so we are 4 minutes past the due time. What's happening now is we will report back this afternoon, and I took notes, and we have your flip chart. So for this afternoon, it will be kind of a rough summary of the indicators to highlight key points, because we only have 10 minutes to report out about the 3 days of work we have done. But we will collect your notes and then write them up more completely and share with you through the email. So if you haven't signed up in your sign-in yesterday, please see us and give us your email so that we can keep you in the loop. Enjoy your lunch, and then we see you at the report out. Thank you so much for your active participation throughout this morning.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what were you Ashley, so I'll try and catch a few maybe at lunch, so I'm going to give you a card because, I got a bad research card.
I like that.
Hey, how are you? Do we need to sign here? Ah, okay. We need to sign. Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. Yes, sure. What kind of information? How are you?
Don't check too quickly. Don't check too quickly. They're always fine. Yes.
If you have done yesterday, it's okay.
I think so. Repository, no?
Yeah, I know, she's doing it right now. Oh my God.
Okay.
Hey, how are you? With Sean. Yes.
You're right. We talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
Like which one?
What type
Okay.
So basically, music, math, and build models. But